When I got off guard duty, we put someone had to stay at the guns and listen if there's any fire missions. When I got off there, and I woke up the next one to take my place, it didn't take more than 20 minutes. I don't remember the time. All of a sudden I heard those whack, 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 and those screaming mimes, what we call them. They're like whistles you blow, and we used to play those games, and they used to buy those little whistles. You blow them out there and they make the sound, and they were popping all over around us.
Welcome to Triumphant Spirit, America's World War II Generation Speaks. This program is a series of broadcasts featuring the stories of a generation that fought and won the Second World War. No matter how they fought the war or where, on the home front or the battlefield, each veteran featured on the program contributed valiantly to a victory that changed the 20th century. Here are their stories in their own words. They are stories of actions and deeds that not only helped shape the outcome of the war, but the very world we live in today. What was your job, and what type of training did you receive when you were overseas?
Well, my job, everybody had to know everybody else's job. And eventually I wound up as the number one man.
What do you mean by number one man?
Well, I'll explain. Number one man is the one that pulls the lanyard, and the gun goes off. As soon as the gun goes off, I have to open up the breech, the block, and put my hand, I have a pail of water next to my legs, and I have a sponge there, and I wipe out the inside, because once they put the shell in there, they have to put a powder charge. If there's any little flame there, that powder charge would explode. So it had to be wiped out right away. And everything is in seconds. It sounds long, but I open up the breech. There's two guys holding up the shell on a sort of a breech there, and two guys slam the shell inside. And then I close the, and then someone puts the powder charge in there. Each man has his own job, and then we're ready to fire. Then the sergeant hears the commands from the photo observer. It goes to the captain or lieutenant, and then he gives the fire, and we fire. And where the shells fall is where the photo observer, they're up in the front there, see where the shells fall, and they give us all the information.
I take it that each man within the crew has a number, like a number one man, a number two man.
Yeah, right.
Are you the number one man that pulls the lanyard? What does number two man do?
Well, the number two and the three, they would bring the shell up and hold it right before the opening of the breech, and then it is like three and four or five men. They would slam the shell in that long rod there, and as soon as then there was another guy who put the powder charge in. There are two kinds of powder charge. One is green, and one is white. I forget what the green was and what the white was for, but it was for the certain distances you had to go. You had to go certain distance. You put one of either the green or the white powder charge in there.
What I'd like you to do now, Max, is think back to June 6th and describe to our audience what you saw the morning of the invasion as if you were there right now?
Well, we were all sleeping. Most of us sleeping on the top deck. And then we heard this noise and shooting, and the guys were getting up little by little and realizing they're now at in France, outside of France. And like I said, it was a misty, foggy day. And I think it's because we had the 3 years of training, none of us were really frightened, except that we know we were getting live ammunition thrown at us. But we got to such a routine, we forgot that we were civilians. Like a person puts on his left shoe first every morning when he gets dressed. It's a habit. And that's what happened with us. We just followed. We knew what we had to do. We knew we had, as soon as we got to the beach, we couldn't get on D-Day. We had to wait till the next morning. And we went on, everybody was on the tractor. Everybody knew their job. And before we made the landing, we were told we were going to land in this and this spot. We were going to go in this field. We were going to waterproof our guns. And, but it didn't work out that way, because now history shows that the Germans had a division of maneuvers that day, that week, and they threw him in happened to be at our Omaha beach in front of us. And so it took a little longer to go. So that's why we had to wait another day till the...
So you landed on Omaha Beach a day or two after the actual invasion. Max, as you crossed that beach, what do you remember of the scene that you saw?
First I saw on my left side bodies in mattress covers, piled up like bags of flour. If you know the bakeries, back in the old days, when they made a delivery, they put those sacks of flour in front of the bakery, and then they pull them downstairs. That's what it reminded me. Bags of flour, but there were bags of bodies in there. I don't know, maybe they were piled up maybe 4 high, one on top of another. And then as we went up this hill to get and start to move up, I saw in the fields all these cows blown up with their legs sticking up in the air and laying on their back. Those were the sights. But those bodies on the left side, that I never could forget.
When your unit came ashore, where did it go and what did it do?
Well, we went into a field, I don't know where. We went in about a mile or two, maybe 3 miles. I think the town was outside of Como. I'm not good at pronouncing those names, but we put our guns in there and we decided to waterproof our guns, get all the cosmoline. And then we went into our firing positions, and we did, every now and then we had orders to fire, and we just continued that way. It was all like routine for us anyway. It was nothing, we were a trained crew.
Now, while you were there, you lived in the field continuously?
All the time, never lived in a house.
Could you describe for our audience how you lived and what was the morale of the men around you?
Well, the morale was good. I've never heard anyone complaining, just kidding around and fooling around, even at the gun. The only thing that there was a little problems we had with the airco, we had attached to our outfit an anti-craft guns, and every time planes came over, they were so nervous, they started to shoot, and they were our own planes. After a while, they started to strafe us, and there was a complaint going on. In fact, that's where I got hurt, that when they started to strafe us, they were holding the trail of the gun, everything was wet and damp. And they let go of the trail. Everybody ran to the foxholes, and hurt my back there that time. But then orders came out. There will be no American planes between the hours, we'll say, of 12 to 8, something like that. And if you see any planes during those hours, they're Germans. Our planes will be falling from, say, early in the morning till 12 in the afternoon. They'll be our planes.
Did you sleep in tents?
No, we slept mostly in the field. There was in the winter time when it get colder. we put up those tarpaulins, and we make a tent like that there just to keep the cold out, and that's the way we kept it a little warm there.
Max, after the Normandy campaign, where did your unit go?
My memory, let's see, from there, we thought when we get to the Siegfried Line, we passed the Siegfried Line, the war would be over, but it wasn't so. I remember one incident when we were in Germany, word got around that President Roosevelt had died, and then he said it was rumors that they didn't die. So they were giving us march order. Then they said, put the gun in gun position, ready to fire, and then it was march order. We moved 4 times into different positions, and then the rumor was that Roosevelt was dead, and then I don't know, it didn't affect us anyway. We thought, I think the Germans must have thought the war would end or we would fall back because of that, but we just kept on moving like nothing happened.
You mentioned the Siegfried Line. Do you remember crossing the actual line, which is the line, which is a fortification line between Germany and Belgium? Do you remember crossing that line?
Yeah, sure. They had the Siegfried Line had cement blocks pointed up like pyramids, and they must have had the engineers somewhere blow them up so we can go through those spots there. There was trails there, and that part I remember. And then one time we went to a position where guns was in Germany, our OP was in Luxembourg, and our headquarters was, I think, in Belgium. Our unit was in 3 different countries. We were like that for about a week.
To get to that position, you had to cross, obviously, across France. Can you recall what the French were like as you passed through their various villages?
Well, the first few days in France, the infantry had a lot of trouble there. They had young girls they captured that was shooting at them, sniping at them. Don't forget, when you lived on a farm, they didn't know about suffering without food, anything else like that there. Where they had, we'll say, 50 chickens, the Germans took, they had to give 25 or 30 back to the Germans, so they lived on 20 chickens. But they had food. They never starved and anything like that. But as you went into the big cities, there the people showed the hatred for the Germans. Don't forget, the Germans were in France for a number of years. They made friends with some of the French there. Some of the girls became involved with some of the German soldiers there. So it was a lot different. But as we went into the big cities, you can see the difference, how much they appreciated us. My big problem is where to get those American flags. Every time we went to the town, all of a sudden we saw all these American flags come out. Mm-hmm.
Max, when the Germans unleashed their counteroffensive, now known as the Battle of the Bulge, how did it affect you and your unit?
Well, we got into this position, and they said we're going to be there a few days. So we had a couple guys. They put up the tent there, and they put straw there so we can sleep in there. And the first day I did duty. When I got off guard duty, we put someone had to stay at the guns and listen if there's any fire missions. When I got off there, and I woke up the next one to take my place, it didn't take more than 20 minutes. I don't remember the time. All of a sudden I heard those whack, whack, whack. Those screaming mimes, what we call them. They're like whistles you blow, and we used to play those games, and they used to buy those little whistles. You blow them out there, and they make the sound. And they were popping all over around us. And one of the guys wanted to see what was happening. I remember him walking on his hands and knees, this guy, Corporal Scheckman, to get out of the tent. And one guy, when that thing started to pop, and he jumped into the tent, and his helmet hit the corporal's nose and knocked him out. So there was a little laughter there. We thought it was funny at the time in the series. And then they told us to hang about, stay near the guns. and we had to wait. But then they told us there was a railroad there nearby, and they told us if you want you can go over to the railroad tracks. There was there was an underpass there. It was pretty safe to be there. And it's a little story. I was there with my corporal, and the sergeant and myself. We were going to that there underpass, and then I heard this guy Ben Scheibel say, "Max Brunder," I think they call Brunder. We seldom call each other by our first names, and he says, "Give me a hand." I said, "You nuts?" And I started walking. Then I could see he was hurt, so I went up there and I told Corporal Miga, I said, "We got to give Ben a hand here." And then he kept saying that Marshall, that was his, there were gunners, machine gunners on top of the hill to protecting the battery. And he says, "Marshall's hurt." So I went up there the hill to bring Ben Scheibel down, and Corporal Meager and Sergeant Budd went up the hill to get this Marshall. He had, after they brought him down, they counted like 81 pieces cuts he had. Now these screaming mimes, they don't kill unless it's direct hit, but what it does, it hits rocks and it splatters into like shrapnel. And so this Marshall was brought down, and we got a jeep to get through there, and they took him to the hospital. And this Ben Scheibel, he was shell shocked. But Bud and Miga said it was so quiet up on a hill, they were so nervous there because there was a lull all of a sudden there, and they were able to bring these two guys down.
So, Max, your first memory of the Battle of the Bulge, which commenced on 16 December 1944, is your unit taking a barrage from what you call Screaming Mimi Battery, which is a rocket battery that the Germans had. During the course of that day, what did your unit do?
Well, we didn't know what we were going. After a while, we went back to the guns. We said we're moving to one position. Then we moved to another position. We're just moving around. Maybe in one day we moved to 3-4 positions. Then they told us we got to protect the town of Monchow. It was an hour road going up the hill. They had, I think, it was 37, 38 cavalrymen. That actually they're machine gunners today, and they protected that road, and they told us that we have to use our howitzers as anti-tank. If they ever break through there, we have to fire. And during our basic training and during our maneuvers that we went all the years, every now and then maybe they trained us what would happen if we had to use a gun. Direct hit. So we had a little experience on that there, if it ever came to that. But thank God they never broke through. And I think Muncha was the point where the Germans could not break through, and that slowed them up mostly. And these guys got personal Bronze Stars, and we as a unit got a Bronze Star from one of the generals from Patton's army.
Max, because of the actions taken by the American infantry and by the American artillerymen in that northern area of the Battle of the Bulge, the Germans did not penetrate past Monchow, and the stand that the American artillerymen and infantrymen made was very, very valorous, and many were awarded medals for the stance that they took during that battle. Because of the stance, the northern shoulder of the Battle of the Bulge was held by the American Army and not taken by the German Army, and thank God that was the case.
Well, we were, it was, I see on one of the maps now that they had the First Army, V Corps, which we were part of then, was part of units there, and then there was, at one time we got so many orders, we were moving from all over the place. We were firing to the left, to the front of us, to the right of us. Then one time orders came down, if you're going to fight, if you're going to fire at another position, they said we're going to be, that means we're surrounded. I think they had the 5th or the 6th Panzer Division that we were facing there, and that was supposed to be one of the toughest there. But I say experience is what really kept us going.
After the Battle of the Bulge, what happened to your unit?
Well, they took us, we were protecting the road to Liege because that was our only supply line. So we stayed there after the war let up and the Bulge slowed up, and that's where our supply lines go. And then they gave the guys a break. They had a truck there where they wash your clothes and everything, a mobile truck there. So they let, every other day, they let 6 or 7 or 8 guys go to there, and that was like having a 12-hour pass, because it took about 4 hours to have the clothes, then another hour to go, and 2 hours up and back the trip. So that was some of the gifts they gave us, or so we took advantage of, and I don't know how many trips we made up and back there, but not everybody was able to enjoy. I made one of the trips there, so we took pictures there and everything else there. It was like being on pass in Paris or something.
After that experience, your unit then moved into Germany. How did it move into Germany?
I know we supported different people. There was a town, Schmidt, we had. It was a tough town. There was a lot of firing to do there. And then we got into one position where the Germans had us zeroed in, and it was a farmhouse, a big 12 houses like attached to each other. And that was the first time I ever saw a cow being born. He come out with a plastic bag like that. And seen him. But that position, the Germans could see in certain parts of that farmhouse. They could see us, and they would throw a few shells into there. And we had about 3 or 4 wounded people from that position. And then we kept on moving. We went back to Czechoslovakia, and then we met we were supporting the 2nd Division, and then they went back for a rest, and they brought back a division, I think it was called the 69th Division. The 2nd Division should have gotten the credit for meeting the Russians, but it seemed the 69th came in, this general came there with a band, and they started to play music there and everything else, and we got a big kick out of it there. So, and we were at I think it was the Elbe River there where the they told us we can't pass that river, we have to wait and the Russians come, because we send out patrols, went out 10, 12 miles, and we didn't see it, so we waited a few days there, and then the Russians came.
Max, how did your unit cross the Rhine?
Well, we were ready to cross the Rhine like an invasion. I was told that all the units from were lining up and we're going to make like one big invasion, like we did Omaha Beach and Utah and all that there. Then suddenly we got a march order, and they took us to the Remagen Bridge. And there we put our guns in position. We were firing over there, and the rumors were, which were true, that we caught the bridge, and Eisenhower said, everything that moves goes across that bridge. And they started to send equipment there, and we started to fire across the bridge, make sure. In the meantime, the Germans were trying to knock the bridge down. It was the first time I ever saw a jet plane over there the Germans had there. Every time we tried to chase them, the jet planes, they went in spurts. They go, broop, and they go, and then they glide most of the way. But they go so fast, our planes looked like they were standing still. And then when the bridge fell down, there was an engineer outfit there. All this while, we were building a pontoon bridge across the Rhine River. And they had a big sign out there. I forget the name of the engineering outfit. You are a guest of this and this engineering. You will be the first one crossing the Rhine River on this pontoon bridge. And that's what we did for a while. We crossed that.
So you crossed the pontoon bridge after the Ludendorff bridge
fell
at
down.
Remagen had collapsed.
Yeah.
When the war ended, where was your unit?
I was in Pilsen, about 7, 8 miles outside of Pilsen, and everybody started to go around wildly crazy, and everybody started to scream. Then they said in Pilsen they had 2 factories, beer factories. They were supposed to be bombed out, but they said there was one factory that was in perfect condition and giving all the beer you want. So I took this friend of mine, and we saw a motorcycle there. I never rode a motorcycle before. And he says, come on, we'll take this, we'll go down there. There was no gas. So he went to the farmer and says, he says he has no petrol. So he went to the motor sergeant, and he gave us gas to put in. We went down to this Pilsen, and it was wild. Nothing like New York when I see the picture there, but they were all running. But the big room, there was a rumor going out that from here there we're going to go to the South Pacific. So that drove everybody nuts. They said, we're not going. If they take the States, we're going to AWL and all that there. And every 12 hours, they're given another password. Some guys got the password, some didn't. And when you were stopped, I guess the MPs knew that the problem that possibly you didn't get the proper password. Let's go. But that was Pilsen was the...
So you were in Pilsen, Czechoslovakia, when the war ended.
Right.
Max, you've made presentations in various high schools.
Yeah.
What was the attention paid to the stories that were said by you and by other veterans?
These kids are great. They ask you questions you can't even answer. Like one asked me, how many Germans did you kill? How do you feel about killing someone? And some questions were, I was in the artillery, so I was a little fortunate. We didn't see anybody face to face. I never had a hand-to-hand battle or something like that there.
Do you have any message for the current generation that in reality, Max has never experienced a war like you had, like your generation had, and has never had to sacrifice anything to this date?
I'll tell you, I don't know what the smarter people, they don't know what to say, but I get angry when I see them burn a flag and nothing happens to them. And they said so I said, what's the difference between burning a flag and burning a Bible? The flag, back in the Civil War, the flag was one of the most important people in the units there. As long as that flag was there, they were able to carry it on to fight. That was the drive. And if the flag fell down, or the unit flag fell down, somebody was there to pick it up again. And they didn't have any guns. They just had the flag to keep the drive going. But today, I don't know what it is. I think the real answer that I feel is there's no respect today for anything. In my days, and in the 30s and 40s, you respected the elders, you respected the authority and this here. And I don't know what the solution. If I did know, I'd be sitting in Washington, I think.